All right, you legends, it's cold. Okay, I don't care where you live. It's probably -1, go left, my brother. Right. -1, -2 Celsius. We just left the house. I was waiting for the sun to come up. Let me pull this thing down because I can't even talk. I look like a mass vigilante or something. We are rolling out. We're gonna just do our own ride because I don't know if there's any other people going at this time. From the postings on the board for the group me, a few guys are gonna leave around 9:30. Well, that's kind of late. So we rolled out. It was almost, what time is it? About almost 7?
Yeah.
So
7 right now.
7 a.m. So in 45 minutes, we'll be out of town on an open road. We're gonna get some clips for you all, of course. But when it's cold like this, you can't mess around. I've got my Sportful Fiandre. My brother has Sportful Fiandre on. But we also have liners, woolen knit gloves, because no one glove can cover all temperatures. You need to be able to layer. So we feel great. It is below 0 Celsius. It's cold. And I've got a 3/4 balaclava complemented by my Pro Team hat. So I can pull it over my face like this. Because when it's very cold, this is one of the areas that make you want to go back home, your face. So your face, your hands, your feet. Because the tights, they do their job. Your legs are moving. And I have 3 layers. My brother has 3 layers also. He's got a jacket. I'm wearing a thermal jersey and 2 base layers. And that's work. And you know, not all base layers are created equal. So don't buy the cheap stuff, then come out and freeze your butt off. Do your homework, do your research, get the good stuff. Because you need to get thermal base layers, not just base layers. And that will really work to keep you warm. And they're breathable, so when it warms up, you don't have to shed. So it's supposed to be around 50 for the high, which is 10 Celsius. It would still feel like 7 or 8. So we'll be lucky if we get out of the 40s as far as what it feels like. And where we head is always colder. But it's nice. I'm glad that Paul actually talked me into coming out at this time, because I was going to tell him that we should go 2 hours later than normal. And I'm glad that he talked me out of it, because it's not that bad with the right equipment on. Yep. But being in the house and the heat was just running, I'm in an outer room. So when it's running like that, I know it's cold. And it's below freezing. Right now it's like 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're gonna get some clips for you all. I think you will find it interesting.
On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. It was very cold. It was like 27 degrees Fahrenheit, about -1 or 2 Celsius. We filmed our warm-up on Kuykendahl Road. Once we got past Sterling Ridge, we turned it off. We rode down Fish Creek to 105. We went east on 105, all that off camera. Then we did the hilly loops in Highland Hollow, and we finally rode Pine Valley. We filmed that, and we continued to film all the way across the lake, well into the forest. We filmed partway into the forest, and then off camera, we rode to 149 there, came down 149, got on Bailey Grove Road to 1097 and took 1097 back to 149. Then we went behind the high school on Lone Star Parkway there, took Spring Branch Road, all of that off camera, came back to Keenan, took Keenan cut off, the Hills Parkway, Grand Lake Estates, to Honia Egypt Road. We ended up doing nearly 8 hours. We had not planned to go that far, but it ended up being a more pleasant day as it warmed up a little later, and we had not been out for a while. We hope you enjoyed the clips we got for you.
All right, you legends. We're gonna go ahead and get some clips on a warm-up. You guys think it doesn't get cold in Texas? It is cold.
We're on Creekside Forest, heading towards
my brother's
Kuykendahl.
kit.
There you go, Nathan.
I got my face covered for some reason. I will turn it down a little bit.
Yeah, Paul. I told Paul later in the ride, Paul was off camera. I told him you need to cover your face because he was sounding like he'd just been to the dentist.
Celsius.
Actually, -3. Yeah, it's
29, 30 degrees. It's cold.
It stayed below freezing for the first few hours of the ride. This is Creekside Forest Drive. It's heavily traveled by cyclists. A lot of cyclists use it. It's close to home, and it's probably a 5 or 7 mile loop, probably about 11 or 12 kilometers. And you can ride for most of it without encountering a lot of intersections. So a lot of cyclists come out here and do their weekday workouts, before or after work, most of the year. It's grown quite a bit. All the stuff you see on the right there, those buildings are all new. At least they added some sidewalks, so some people ride their bikes on the sidewalk. We've got bike paths in certain areas near here, but we use them just to sparingly get around when we're encountering a lot of traffic. But this is the weekend, so we're going to use the main drive. This is Kuykendahl Drive. That's another way you can tell if somebody's from the area or not. A lot of people pronounce it Kuykendahl. So when I got in the area newly, I used to call it Kuykendahl. And then you hear it, it's like, oh, it's Kuykendahl. We should expect it to be spelled K-E-R if it's Ker. So that's what throws people off. But K-U-Y, you think it's Kuykendahl. So you learn from the locals and you pick it up. So it's a direct route to Flint Ridge Boulevard in the Woodlands. We are in the Woodlands, Texas here, on the western outskirts of it. The good thing was the wind was not very vicious on this ride, so it didn't feel too much colder than it already is. It's like 27, see, -3 Celsius. That's about 27 degrees Fahrenheit, and it felt colder than that. So I kept my face covered. I ended up telling Paul to cover his face because when we were back there on Creekside, he had his face covering down, but when he started to talk, I could tell he was cold. I said, man, you need to cover your face. So you need a balaclava in your arsenal if you're gonna ride below 40 degrees, because sometimes even in the mid to upper 30s with the wind, your face will be uncomfortable because it makes a big difference. Get a good quality one that is form-fitted for the human face, so it's not smashing against your skin, so it's comfortable. You don't have to be adjusting all the time. What I'm wearing is not a full balaclava. It goes up above my ears and almost like it has a headband incorporated into it. Then I have a hat on because I knew it was going to get much warmer since we're going to spend more than 6 hours out. But I do have a regular balaclava made by Sportful that works really well. So you need to do your selection properly because they don't all fit very well. You end up fidgeting with them the whole ride. I don't care for that. I like to wear things that work. I will put all the links for these things in the description of the video. I'm going to start doing that on a regular basis. Just put the links there so if people are interested, they can check out what we're using, irrespective of brand. It's cold. It's early Saturday morning. Even though this road is normally busy, that was not the case this morning. We got a few cars that passed us while we were on it, but for the most part, people were staying in. I love it when it's very cold or very wet. If you have cold and wet combination, you really got to have your rain gear in place. What I'm telling Paul is that I got a jersey from Rafa. It's the new long sleeve jersey. They claim it's thermal, but it's lighter than the ones we're wearing. And they have a story in there about Ben Aino He was riding in Liège, Bastogne, Liège, and on the way back to Liège, all his competitors were quitting the race, and his team director had taken his rain jacket from him because back then they didn't have thermal stuff. And so he just got in the drops and started to ride hard. He said, well, when you're cold, the way to keep warm is ride hard. That's what I was telling Paul. So let's up the pace a bit. Because we have a tailwind here, you can see the watts are very low. And I try to be as efficient. When you get fitted to your bike well and you're in good condition, I'm riding at a fairly good clip for the conditions we're in. And look at my heart rate, 136. Right, that's like zone 1. Paul says it feels good. It's cold. It feels good. But what I was saying is that as you get fitter, it will take more and more work for your heart rate to get up in the higher zones because your body gets more efficient and you're just in a better condition so you can go faster in these lower zones. So a lot of time, by the time I hit 150 beats per minute, we're really flying. You know, the heart has to adjust and catch up. But for the most part, that's what I've been noticing. And that's the way that's the kind of fitness I used to have when I competed. So it's nice to be able to ride consistently now. For quite a few years, I was traveling a lot. And so my training was very spotty. But since, I guess 2012 or so, I've been training more consistently. And definitely since I started the channel in 2016. The pace was going down, so I stood up a little bit to kind of keep the gear rolling. That's a good amount of breeze, and that's the reason why our face is covered. You can hear it. I've got it dubbed, but you can hear it. It's always out there. When it's cold, you can't just dress for the temperature that you see on your phone or thermometer in the house or whatever. You got to dress for that wind chill. It's always a factor. It is the most important thing to dress for. So a lot of people will say, I'll do a review on the channel. Say, oh, what is this rated for? I can't tell you that. You know, the manufacturers can claim 5 degrees Celsius, but what I have found is those claims vary from person to person. Some people just have cold hands. They need warmer gloves. Some people are warmer and they don't need as much. So you got to figure out what you need. You can use the rating as a guide, but don't bank on it. Carry your layers. I've got 2 sets of gloves on. Wooling gloves, they're knits. They don't have anything on them, they're just smooth. It makes them easier to wear. So I've got 2 layers on the hands, and when it gets much below 30 degrees Fahrenheit, I really need 3 layers. That's when we can bring the lobster claw, you know, something else to block the wind on your hands. Because your hands just sit there and they get bombarded. I hate for my hands to be uncomfortable. And so these gloves worked really well on this ride. And then some gloves don't like layers, you know, they work better without. So you've got to really figure out what you have. That you just got to get out there and ride in these conditions and you learn from it. There's no silver bullet. I'm using 3 layers because I figure that's enough. I've got a base layer on that is sleeveless. Then I've got a long sleeve base layer and then the jersey. And because we didn't have winds above 10 miles an hour, I did not wear a gilet. I didn't want to have to take anything off.
Quick.
Also, we got here quick. We had a little bit of wind behind us. This is Flint Ridge Drive. And taking the most direct route. Yeah, we're leaving town quickly. This is the route we take when we want to get out of town.
Well, it's warmed up a little bit. We're right at about 33 degrees Fahrenheit.
So 2 hours into the
Celsius.
ride.
It's cold. If you don't have the gear, you don't want to be out in this temperature.
We're right at the freezing mark.
Break out
right
the
now.
trainer if you don't have the proper gear. You can't mess around in this kind of weather. It's beautiful and sunny, fair day, but it's brutally cold. And if you're going to be out here for any appreciable amount of time, you got to be equipped.
There are quite a few riders in our area that don't invest in winter gear because we're in southeastern Texas. Well, it gets cold here.
That's
so
the
then,
climb we're always killing ourselves on.
Then they'll wait till like, oh, I'll go out at 10:30 or 11. Well, it's still cold. It might say 50. It's still cold. I saw a lot of riders this weekend in shorts, and I was wearing tights, and it was like 55, 58. It's cold. So you might as well invest, unless you're not going to be out in this weather. You might as well stay on the trainer because you can injure yourself. We turned on this road called Pine Valley here. I found a hill. That's a nice school over there, a little elementary school. But that's all that's on this road is that school. And what I was telling him is, in the afternoon, this area will probably be crowded because people are picking up the kids. But once you see these two signs, once we pass these street signs, there's nothing back there but Lake Conroe is down there, and they have the San Jacinto River Authority building, the county building there. And so there's nothing there. It's all fenced in. You'll see. But so this is a perfect road to come and do a workout on because it's a dead end. The only traffic going there would be people going to that river authority to work because it's not a tourist place. So there's never any traffic once you get past that school. And when we come, it's on the weekend anyway, so school's not in session. That's why I'm telling you. I said nobody has any reason to go down here unless you're working at the San Jacinto River Authority. So when I came last Sunday, there was nothing. It was just like this. And it's a beautifully paved road. Today you will hear Paul tell me to be careful, but on today's ride, the deer were out. I guess they love the cold weather. Because when I came the last time, I didn't know we had deer out here. But I found this road because coming back, there's like a 7 to 9% climb for about a mile. And for us, that's nice and long, and it just stays there. You'll see. So this is a nice find.
Not a fluke. There's no traffic because there's nothing out here.
Yeah, since there's nothing out here but one river authority near the lake, this is a dead-end road. It is perfect for coming and doing specific workouts. This is a descent here that we will climb coming back that gets up to almost 10% and is long. In a little bit, you hear Paul say, be careful, be careful. I saw the deer. There's a bunch of deer just hanging out, going across the road. And I keep my eye on it. The reason why he's saying be careful is they cross skittishly and they cross in groups. So sometimes you'll see one crossing and then you got to watch out for more. So you got to be extra cautious. And then I'm like, what's going on, guys? Yeah, is there a party or something? Then he'll laugh. Right there. Be careful. You see the deer going across the road? It's a bunch of them. So I'm like, hey, where you guys going? Because the last time I came, they were not out here. I told them when I came, it was wet. So maybe they didn't like the rain, but they love this weather. We saw a bunch of deer on this ride.
Beautiful.
So we got two climbs because this is another descent. This is like 4 to maybe 6% going back the other way. And somebody actually has set up a Strava segment here called SJRA, which represents the San Jacinto River Authority. They call it in and out. So riders have been on this road. And Jerry, I think, is high up in the leaderboard for this, Jerry Lutner. So that's the River Authority building over there. It's all fenced in. There's you can't get in there. The lake is behind there. You can't see it.
That's nice.
So there's really nowhere to go. This is it.
Oh, that was fun. This was fun.
So when you have a long climb, this is probably about 2 miles. So, 3 or 4 kilometers. You want to start in a gear that you can handle because you don't want to kill your legs before you're done. Because it's hard to recover on a climb.
This is the one I was talking about.
This is the first climb.
You think it's over, then it
See the grade? It starts to kick, and it gets there in a hurry, so you really got to be in your gear early. You see, it goes from 2 to 4 like that. These kind of climbs, it's hard to get a rhythm. He says almost 5-6%. So you've got to really be on top of your gear.
5.6.
I'm not really paying attention to cadence here. I'm just kind of letting Paul know what the gradient changes are. He's got grade displayed on his machine as well.
I can't believe it's a 5 and 6 back there.
It's like 9 or 7. I like it this long.
We're just at 1 Celsius, so it's like 33 Fahrenheit.
Then it starts to kick in.
And because we're dressed right, we're comfortable.
No traffic.
Yeah.
Right here is almost 3.
Yeah.
So it starts to kick back up again. So it's almost like 3 climbs. So we did the first, it leveled off. It's almost like when you climb in a mountain. 4%.
3.6.
Yeah.
Levels off. So you can catch your breath. Like climbing a mountain.
Yep.
That's how they work. 3.7. 3.9.
It's going to level off and then it's going to kick up.
You need it on this one. So that's the proof.
So if you have not saved your legs and then you get to this one, you will crawl. Because it's steep and it's long. It stays around, I think the average is like 5%. It goes up to 10%, but it stays at 7 for quite a bit.
You get too macho on a hill like this. Spank you and spit you out.
Yeah.
That's the hill in the distance there. We're climbing here. I think it's about 4% here. It's gonna go to 7, it's go to 9. I mean, it flickers between 7 and 9.5. It felt good for me to keep my cadence low and just ride. I'm probably riding at 39.23 or something like that.
6.8.
Wow.
7.8.
I just get a rhythm that feels good. I'm riding 2 out of 5, let's say, effort-wise.
Yeah.
8.8. 9.
Yep.
It just keeps going. That will settle down at 7.
9.1. 9.6. 9.3.
And depending on where you ride, I think for Paul it said 10. Depending on where you ride, it'll show up. Different grades will show up. If you're on the inside, it's more. It can be steeper than if you're on the outside. So I like the length of this climb. Needless to say, I will be visiting it often. It's about 2 hours away by bike from where we live.
Still not over.
Yeah. Wow.
So after climbing that at 4% here, it felt like it was over, but it's not. If you look in the distance, when it curves, it goes up again.
Yeah. That's good. That was good. You literally see it increasing.
So you can come and you can ride these and do repeats and decide how hard you want to go each interval, you know, depending on how you feel or whatever. But to really enjoy it, you got to get to know what it's doing. It's undulations. The ones that get there in a hurry, it's hard to get a rhythm. The ones that are gradual, you can really ease into them better. A lot of times when I ride a climb like that, I will stand and sit. I just chose to sit. And by saving your legs, when the climb's over, you can still ride. Otherwise, you will be crawling and pedaling squares if you overcook yourself.
What I was talking about. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Still 2.2.
Yep.
It's still like at
that's
2.5%
serious right there.
right here.
No kidding.
But it's pretty much over. But it's a nice long climb. I like it. And I like how quiet the road is. So I will be visiting it very often. Anytime I have time to go, like for a 4.5-hour loop, I'm going to be heading out this way. Because it takes us about 5 hours if we don't go through the forest.
Let's get them all the way to 8:30 out there, okay?
Yeah.
And then get enough intersection so I can sync. Because there are no streets here. You don't want
Yeah.
So if you don't have your bike set up correctly, what ends up happening is I climb that thing probably below 150 beats per minute, let's say. If you're not set up efficiently, you end up using more energy to offload something that's uncomfortable. All of that causes your heart rate to go up. If you're not stable and relaxed and balanced on your bicycle, you waste energy. So you take higher heart rates to do the same load versus someone else who is set up correctly and in the same condition you are, let's say. So it's important that your bike fits you. Something that's uncomfortable causes you to use more watts to do the same work.
Look how long that climb is.
Yeah. Every time we come here, we're gonna come do it, man.
I knew Paul was gonna like that climb. I like how long it is, no stop signs, no cars, it's great. If you do encounter a car, it's gonna be one here and there.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing back there.
Yeah.
So during the week, if you're gonna come out here, a place like that, you avoid the hours of 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., you're good, because that's when school lets out. So you don't have to deal with parents picking up kids. Or back on Longmire Road.
Then it's settled at 7%.
So it was at 7% for a long time back there.
Hell, I was in the Belgian Ardennes.
The Ardennes weekend. Liège, Bastogne, Liège.
And how sustained it was.
I love those classics.
I knew you would like it. Shit. I climbed that thing. I was like, man, is it ever going to end? Yeah, that was what going through my head. I said, when does this end?
So at 2 Celsius, we're still in the, I guess, mid-30s Fahrenheit. And then with the wind,
All right,
it's
you
cold.
legends. We managed to get to Lake Conroe. Still cold. Didn't warm up much. It's about 6 Celsius. It feels colder. But we want to get these clips for you.
If it says 6 Celsius, it feels colder because of the wind, and then we're near the lake here. So having that balaclava that I can slide down over my chin when I don't need it on my face made a world of difference. Just little pieces can make or break a ride. And those are the same pieces that when the temperature warms up, you got to take off and just stuff them in your pocket or wherever. But yeah, you keep your engine comfortable, you can enjoy the ride. We have a tailwind here from the east. It's blowing from the northeast right now. So as we enter the lake, the water is a lot calmer, which was nice. The wind is mostly from behind us and a little bit from the right. There's always a lot of debris on this shoulder, so even though it's very wide, you can't use all of it. And so, but that's where you want to be, where you see me. when you ride on the shoulder. You want to be within a foot of that white line because you're still part of traffic. You're slower moving, so you stay off to the right, but you want them to see you and know that you're there instead of going to the far right by the barrier. That's not where you want to be. Most drivers, as they come by, they will move a little over in their lane as they go by, even when you're placed where I am. We're enjoying the tailwind. We're moving around 21, 22 miles an hour at very low watts in zone 1 after all those hills that we had done. But we did the climb in Highland Hollow. We did that twice, and then we went and did the hill on Pine Valley that you saw. So at this point we needed a bit of a break, and we welcomed this section here. But as soon as we exit, it goes up, because you see in the distance all the buildings and whatever you see under the trees, they're up. They're elevated, they're higher than the lake. So we have to use some busy roads to get to where we need to go. Like, for example, to get to the forest and so forth. My only issue with cars is that they're just so noisy. And then sometimes when you're in a very nice area and a car comes by, it almost seems like it doesn't, well, it's clear it doesn't belong because they just disturb everything. The noise from the engine. Especially these trucks, they're loud. There were people fishing. I told Paul, I said, you really have to love fishing to be out here as cold as it is on that water. They're definitely feeling like freezing on that water. Because that evaporative cooling when you're on the water, it's significant. So we get off the lake, you will see the watts start to go up because even though we've got the tailwind here, the grade kicks in. This area probably sits about 4 to 5% above the lake overall. So you can see it's like 2%. It starts to gradually go up. I downshift, getting the proper ratio to keep the effort reasonable. It's a nice clean shoulder. It doesn't stay this wide for most of this. This road is called Old Montgomery Road, Old 1097. That's how they refer to it. But so most of it, the shoulder is about maybe 2 feet, like what you see here. It looks like, yeah, no more than 2 feet at most. Sometimes narrower than that. And that's what I like to hear, the birds. They're singing. So when you ride on roads that have high speed traffic like this one, you know, the speed limit is 55. They don't do the speed limit. They're probably doing 60, 65 or more. What you want to focus on is being predictable. There's a shoulder, so we're using the shoulder. But it needs to be clear what your position is and what you're doing. Don't do anything unexpected to freak out the other road users. If this road had no shoulder, we'd use it. I looked in my mirror and there's nothing coming, so I motioned for Paul to come take the lead, and I'm using the main lane. And once he comes by, I get behind him on the shoulder. So whenever there's a shoulder and it's safe, use it. That's what they mean by sharing the road. You're slower traffic, you stay to the right. If your car had a mechanical and you were let's say driving it to the nearest shop, you'd put your hazards on and you'd stay as far right as practical. The same thing, same theory. You're slower moving traffic. You are part of traffic, but don't sit out in the main lane on any road to chat with your buddy. So if you want to talk and have a conversation at a leisurely pace on the bike, pick roads that are quiet, preferably roads that have two lanes in the same direction and you can just take one lane. Or if you must chat, keep your eye on the other road users. As soon as you spot one, go single file so they can get by and then you guys can resume your conversation. They appreciate that, and that's just being courteous and considerate. You don't want to impede other people. They got things they're going, let them go do their thing. You know, let them go on by. We like to know where all these gas stations are because you might need to use the restroom or get something to drink or whatever. So on your routes, make sure you note where they are, especially in the summer.
If I say 7 Celsius, it feels colder. It feels like 4.
My face completely covered. It's cold. Out here, it's always colder. The trees and everything, we're further north. It's always colder. Even in the summer, it's nicer out here. So we expect it to be very cold. So you need to dress with that in mind, what you're going to encounter on your route. And I'm thankful for these technical fabrics that don't require us to derobe or delayer, you know. Because the stuff that we wear, we can go up to 20 Celsius and be comfortable. It's amazing what they've come up with. So back in the day, that's the thing I was talking about earlier. Back in the day, those boys did not have access to this kind of stuff, these technical fabrics. So it's like they had to give things to the team car or whatever. That's what I was talking about. That Bernard Hinault told the guy, he said, you know what, to stay warm, we just need to ride hard. And that plays a factor. If you're going to do a tempo ride or faster, you dress a little differently than if you're going to ride slower. If you're going to do a long endurance ride, then you dress heavier. You know, but they've made it easier with these technical fabrics because they're so breathable that as you go harder, you just need to unzip a little bit, and that can help you regulate your temperature. So I'm very thankful for these things because I used to race without them. I know when we used to wear, those of you who've been on the channel a long time, I showed the plastic bag that Castelli made, they call a jacket. And, you know, you could boil in those things. And you'd put them on, and as soon as the rain stopped, you couldn't wait to take them off. And now we got gilets and jackets that are breathable that you can wear as a layer plus get rain protection. Just excellent. So we've come a long way. I mean, we've done a lot of innovative things, and I think we need to use our know-how for more positive things like that versus destructive things. I mean, you think about the lights on our bikes, USB chargeable. Back in the day, you'd be lucky if you could find a battery-powered light to put on your bike that was practical. And now they're just everywhere, so there's no excuse for people not to outfit the machines. Then you don't have to depend on your kit. Put a light on the bike. They'll see it a lot further away than whatever you're wearing. And you can wear, especially those of you who like to do all black. I see a lot of riders that do all black. You put some lights on your bike, because in the distance you just look like a dot. They're not sure if you're a person or a tree. I like to mix things up. I like to have some color. Get the contrast going. Make it easier for the other guys to see you, because, you want to get their attention. It's hard enough getting them to pay attention to the road anyway. These grades pop up quickly on this highway. Let's see, 5%. Yep, doesn't look it, but you can feel it. A little bit, I'm going to take the lead. I'm keeping my eye on traffic because the shoulder's kind of narrow, so I want to pass in the main lane. I think it's somewhere around here. Yeah, right here. I'll go ahead and take the lead. Because Paul had been pulling for quite a while. And since we're going in the forest, I didn't want him to spend too much time up here. This is a slight downhill. See how the watts are low. I don't get too excited. We're going to enjoy the downhill. We've been climbing for quite a bit. I love coming in the hills, especially when it's cold. That's another way to stay warm. Raise that heart rate. And the hills will do that without you consciously trying to push yourself. We're getting closer to turn off for the forest, and we're going to go north. We'll have the option of going west towards Taco Corner or go north. We decided to go north. That's what ended up making the ride so much longer. But we really wanted to do Bailey Grove. This is a grade here. Yeah, see, 3%. So when you ride in this kind of terrain, you can maybe decide, okay, every time the road goes up, I'm going to push, meaning put power to the pedals. That's another way you can work intervals in your ride without having to be too structured. So pick your terrain based on the kind of ride you want to do. There's nothing coming, it's clear. A little back road. I soft pedal a little bit. Paul gets closer. And we go, this road is going up. We're going north, it goes up. I love coming this way. Since we did this a few weeks back, and I noticed that it was a nice long climb at the beginning. Both directions are good, actually. You can see how relaxed my shoulders are. I'm on the tops because this road is up and down. It just feels good to be there. But when you're fitted correctly, your shoulders should be relaxed. If you're holding your shoulders up or forward, that takes energy. That will raise your heart rate. All of that's important. You watch very experienced riders, the upper body almost goes limp. And then the harder you go, the more relaxed you want to be. It's contrary to what the natural response is, to where you tend to clench when you push hard. On the bike, you've got to train yourself to not do that. You got to relax all the non-essential muscles. Your upper body, your arms, they need to be relaxed when you're seated. This is where this road starts going up. And you need to make sure you select the proper ratio. I just found that this bike needs to be serviced. The bearing, it has an Ultra Torque Campagnolo, and the Ultra Torque bearings, I had replaced them with Kuykendahl bearings. Well, those bearings have given their life. I've put about 16,000 kilometers on them, and there's a slight play. Whenever there's a play, that's wear, because they're disposable. I mean, basically, they're wear items. So don't wait till you have excessive play in your bottom bracket. You have to keep up with your stuff. Needless to say, today's maintenance Monday, they will be replaced. I always keep a spare set of bearings. And I will replace the chain as well. The chain is 0.5 worn. I don't wait till they get beyond that. I've already ordered a replacement. It should be here shortly. By doing that, I have never had the need to replace my cassettes or my chain rings. The road's going up. You can see it. I make sure I downshift to keep the effort. You can see it says 154 beats per minute. That's the cool thing about hills. You can push harder. I moved intentionally. I saw that car coming. I moved so he could have more room to get by. Give him a lot more room, even though he moved over. Those are the little things that you do when you ride. There's no reason to be competing for road space. Give them room. Let them get by. Let them go on by their business so you can ride your bike. That's why you're out there. You don't want them behind you any longer than they need to be. If it's unsafe, I make sure I take the road, but I signal and let them know I'm taking the road. And sometimes I'll signal for them to wait. And then I'll wave them by when it's safe. Because sometimes they can't see around you very well, especially in areas like these. So there are times when you need to be where I am so they can wait in the middle. But you need to do that carefully. Don't do anything unsafe. All of that's important because I'm riding hours every week. I can't afford to take chances. So this eliminates risks by being consistent and aware. The same thing in your car. You drive every day to work. You can't be taking risks. You just increase the odds of a crash. This is the part of this direction going in the forest that I was talking about. You get some good work done. So anywhere from 160 watts and up is decent work. 160 is like zone 2 and up. So when I'm recovering, I try to stay 100 watts or less. I don't use the watch. I use that as a gauge for those of you who train with power. I can do it by how light the pressure is on the pedals. So the road's going downhill here now. And I'm just looking for the cleanest area to use. I'm doing that being well aware that there are no other road users using the road right now. I'm using my mirrors and I'm looking forward and back, just kind of glance. That's why I love those mirrors. I rarely turn around now. It's once in a while. But that allows me to communicate with the other road users because I know where they are, when they're coming up, all of that. I go across because that seemed to be the smoothest from where I was. A little bit of patina. So yes, it was cold. There weren't a whole lot of riders going out early in our area. A lot of them went out later. The only thing, when you go out later, you have less daylight, and we like to do very long rides. It just works for us to leave early, and we're gonna stick with that. That's why we get stuff for rain, for cold, for rain and cold, And then in the summer, we lighten everything up. So weather's always there. get what you need, and keep your appointment. Road's going up. I decided to stand here. When I stand, I go up at least a cog before I stand. So I can keep a rhythm and keep the effort the same. And then when I sit, I keep that gear rolling. So I don't know what you did this weekend, but we would not allow the weather to deter us. So even though it was brutally cold, we went out and we got a lot of Ks in. There was somebody that put a comment on the Strava talking about, I told Jerry said, nice ride. Jerry lives here with us. And somebody from up north said, because I said it was freezing. He said, freezing, LOL. It was 11 degrees in southeastern Ohio. And I was thinking, that's why I don't live in southeastern Ohio. Who gives a crap whether it's 11 degrees in southeastern Ohio? It might be minus 40 in Alaska. I don't live there either. It was 27 degrees in southeastern Texas. That's what I care about, because that's where I am. Cold is cold. The degrees of coldness doesn't change the fact that you're below zero, it's freezing. You know, so of course I ignored that comment. I don't have time for foolishness. So this is part of what we did on Saturday. Make sure you get your K's in and keep those doctors fired.